What if I told you this beautiful beach, this luxury resort I'm at right now, was built on blood? That beneath the polished surface of paradise lies a story of land theft, forced disappearances, and death squads. Welcome to the Killing Fields, EDC. This is the story of the Indura resort in Tela, Honduras, and the EDC gear I carry when I step into environments like this. This place is called the Indura Beach and Golf Resort, a high-end tourist destination on Honduras' northern coast near Tela. But few know the land it sits on belonged to the Garifuna peoples, Afro-Indigenous descendants of escaped African slaves and indigenous Caribbean. Their ancestors have lived here for centuries, fishing these waters, farming these lands, hunting, and holding it under ancestral communal titles, not necessarily commercial deeds. When tourism investors, packed full of the dirty money of which we know where it comes from in this part of Central America, as well as the Honduran government itself, decided that this land was too valuable to be held in the hands of poor black coastal communities, they didn't buy it. They took it by force and by violence. Over the past decade, members of the Garifuna community have been threatened, pushed out, and even murdered in major land grabs like that of this particular resort. Some were threatened and pushed off. Others were abducted by masked men in the night, never to be seen again. Others still were murdered by sicarios, paid hitmen, working for the interests of those wanting to develop this coastal beachfront property. Organizations like OFRANEH have shared light on these events and the death squads and the killings and all of these disappearances. There's even been court cases who have gone all the way up to the United States for human rights violations. But in the end, justice just doesn't come for the oppressed. Today, I'm using my social media platform to shine a light on what's happening under the palm trees in the ocean breeze, and that's why I'm calling this the Killing Fields EDC. I'm here and I'm going to talk about the gear that I use and that I carry when I'm in this highly volatile, potentially dangerous environment. I'll tell you some stories along the way, and I'll tell you how the gear that I use might benefit you, why I use it, and what you can take from my experience in dangerous, non-permissive environments. Hey guys, Greg here, Bone Tactical. I've given you the intro. Now let's talk EDC, everyday carry. In environments like this where corruption runs deep, law enforcement is compromised, and private security often is the threat, everyday carry, or EDC, is extremely important. A lot of the gear on the table in front of me that I'm wearing and next to me on either side is either sponsored or it's gear that I make myself. I'm not featuring anything in this video that you can't buy, so the idea here is to be able to show you what can be useful for you. Any of the gear you see that's sponsored, I'll tag the links in the description below, and it's all gear by this point that I stand behind unless otherwise mentioned. But this is not an unboxing video. This is gear that's getting hardcore used, and I'm here in the thick of it using this gear. Now, my first line of defense right this second is gonna be this really, really cool off-body carry bag from 945 Industries. And I've done some other videos on off-body carry in the past, but this is so far, this is the best I have found as far as off-body carry goes. And I'll show you exactly why that is. And off-body carry is just that. It's a carry method that is not necessarily under your clothing. In this case, it's still concealed, all right? I've got extra mag, as you can see down here, and mid-size Glock 19. And you guys obviously can understand that in an area where firearms are highly prevalent, a firearm is going to be your first line of defense and almost a necessary thing. So I do have other stuff on the table here in front of me, but talking about strict security, if bullets are coming at you, you want to be able to send bullets back. Again, I've got an entire video on all kinds of off-body carry options. This has come in since then, and the quality of the fit and finish is just there. Everything's really well thought out, the design process. One of the top things is that it has a Kydex holster or plastic holster inside of the bag itself, which allows me to carry around in the chamber. Super important. My choice of firearm, it's got to be small enough to conceal, because the element of surprise is everything, guys. You're not an army, you're one man. If you're watching this video, you think you have friends, you might have some guys that have your back, but still, you have to be realistic and understand, especially in an environment like this, and pretty much anybody, you should be prepared for going up against a greater force. And in that case, the element of surprise is absolutely everything. You have to be able to conceal the firearm. I've got the El Sicario concealed carry shirt on, which means when I'm wearing this in a holster, I've got some different holsters in the bag, and I switch it up depending on where I'm going. I've got this because I like being able to go to the beach, have gym shorts on, go to the pool, go work out, all that kind of stuff, and still have this. I can switch over to a double mag holster over here and a holster over here for the firearm. I can go inside the waistband for deeper cover, outside the waistband for faster access. That being said, everything with a gun is how quick you can get to it if it's covered and nobody knows you have it. So it's always a compromise between the two. You want to go as deep cover as you can depending on the situation. If it has to be super concealed, you have to just understand what the law is and what the legal aspects are. And you know, that's the real gray man theory versus hard target. You don't want to go super hard target, because then you'll just get taken out before you even see the threat, because they're going to use the principles you should be using. And you don't want to go to where the gun's so deep cover that you can't get to it. So that's why this bag is so great. I can have a round in the chamber, so all I got to do is pull that down, and then I'm out on target. It's already in my center line, which is actually, if I've practiced with it, it's really fast to get to, because it's already in my hand right here. All I have to do is flip it around, and I can already put rounds on target faster than it takes me to get it out of a holster from down here and then get it up here, right? Then as I'm pushing out, I can start putting rounds on target as needed. Always train to utilize cover. You're one man again. You don't have your med team with you, so you're gonna wanna try and use cover and not get shot, all right? So 945 Industries concealment bag. This is a River Road bag that I just really like, because it allows me to utilize the gray man theory principles, the real gray man theory, which means that I just don't want to be looked at, and I don't want people knowing right away that I have a skill set and a firearm and I'm ready to go, because then if something does go down in the area that I'm in, I'm going to be the first one taken out, right? So this allows me to be the person that I want to be as far as molding the perceptions of those around me, and maintaining that element of surprise, which is so important, and not getting into a situation that I can't get myself out of. Trying to be a tough guy or looking really tactical or military, that's a huge disadvantage, especially when you don't have, especially out of country, out of your home country, where you don't have a bunch of support. In this case, we're way out here in the wilderness. There's limited medical support. You can't just call the police. They're not going to come help you. They're more likely to help somebody else. We'll get into that. And as we discussed in the beginning of this video, this place was built on corruption and killing the people that lived here so they could build this beautiful, fancy resort. Now, this is a Bravo concealment holster I use outside the waistband. I've got to be very careful with this because it can print, especially if I'm not wearing a covert concealed carry shirt that has the double layer print on there. Some other quick shout outs. A little bit of caffeine and a meal on the run, rec pack, put some water in there, shake it up, and you're good to go. If you can't get any food, the food out here kind of sucks, so if I have to, I can mix this up, and I've got like 700 calories, which is enough to go a whole day in case of an emergency. A little bit of caffeine to keep me going. A lot of sun out here. It's been 100 degrees every day. I've got this Inky's Tattoo sunscreen, 50 SPF. It's been a lifesaver. Been doing a little fishing, caught a huge snook last night. Probably link that at the end of the video. I'll show you guys what it looks like out here, and I'll be doing some overlays and stuff as I'm talking through this stuff so you guys don't get bored and so you can see all the cool stuff that's out here. And we'll talk about some really other cool tips and tricks and some cool weapons and stuff, how much magazines and ammo I carry, all that kind of stuff. Some stuff that is cheaper, stuff that you can get, and some tips and tricks from a pro that's spent a lot of time in non-permissive environments. This is Parakeeto bug spray. So another thing to consider if you're going anywhere near the equator, there's probably going to be tons of bugs everywhere. Where I'm at right now, there's jaguars, there's crocodiles. We just saw a huge croc this morning when I was fishing, and lots of dangerous stuff. The insects, they do training here in this area, in this type jungles, in this Central America, for a lot of special forces. The U.S. Special Forces have training here in this country. The local special forces do a lot of their jungle training. And one of the first things they tell you in their jungle training is that half of everything as soon as you get into the jungle, half of everything in your area of operation is trying to kill you, and the other half of everything is trying to eat you. You're being hunted by, megafauna like jaguars and crocodiles, which can easily take you out. And it's crazy to me because I'm from Florida, and I noticed today, when I saw the crocodile, it literally jumped out of the water up onto the road and didn't know I was right there, and then jumped off and back into the water. And I went over there kind of cautiously and tried to look into the water and couldn't see it. And it was probably 3 feet of water, and it was hiding because it saw me. And in Florida, the alligators, they don't hide because they don't get hunted. Here, the people hunt them and they hunt the people, so it's a little bit different. It's a lot trickier. And then, like 15 minutes later, it came up for air and then swam off real fast. They're just massive, powerful animals. But there's a lot of bug spray. So the trying to kill you and eat you part is it's a joke, but it's not, because there's poisonous plants. Everything has thorns on it. Everything is poisonous insects, all kinds of stuff wanting to sting you. So when you actually do this real jungle training, and I did a for you guys that want to know more about that, you can't get in on these jungle training with the military unless you're in the military. But I went to the same areas that they did, one of the most remote parts of the world, and did a 1 week survival video filming where I was out there literally surviving myself, doing the same kind of training myself. And it was hell. I actually had to rotate workers, and these were local guys that were supposed to be, local people that lived in the mountains and the jungles, and none of them could last with me more than 2 days, 3 days maximum, because it was just so hard. And so the plants are stinging you and cutting you, and there's fire ants and giant kinds of huge wasps and just tons of the Bothrops asper, which is like one of the most poisonous snakes in the world. We ran across some of those. If you get bit, you're dead. You have to make a choice if you get bit and you're out there on one of these jungle expeditions. If I get bit in the arm, I either have to cut my arm off, put a tourniquet on there, and lose my arm. So it's basically cut my arm off to survive or die, because you don't have time to get to the hospital. And so, this is where we're at. Bug spray. I've got this Parakeeto. I'll link it in the description below, all natural. I carry a little thing of DEET in my bag here, and pure DEET. And I don't like to use it too much because they say it causes cancer or whatever, but if I'm getting eaten alive by mosquitoes, I'll put a little bit of pure DEET on. If it's not so thick of mosquitoes that it blocks out the sun, usually this will work. And then this is a night core, which is the same as a thermoset, I think it is. But it basically, before this night core came out, which I'll link in the description below, they have these little packets. You just put a little packet with a screen in there, and it blows the spray. And then you used to have to do propane cartridges. And now these new ones, like this Nightcore EMR06 TAC, actually are rechargeable. So you don't have to buy the propane anymore. And these really work. It's got a little screen, and it blows out this stuff with the fan. And they're pretty awesome. I've used these all over the place. And so that's really cool. But definitely good to have in mind what you're going to be using for your insect repellent, sunscreen, because just remember that jungle training, the elements are out to get you. It's not 70 degrees in California wine country, and you're just out for a nice little afternoon wine tasting. This is the real deal down here, even if you're not considering the fact that there's dangerous people everywhere. So after this EDC section, we'll get into showing some of the local community. But one of the reasons it's so dangerous here is just because the people are so poor. So we were out fishing on the golf course here the other day, and I was going up over in the golf cart to looking for another fishing hole, and we saw 3 of the local Garifuna people harvesting. I don't know how they killed it, but they had some kind of an animal in a sack. Like here it's very popular to have a sack that they just reuse because it's an agricultural sack, like a feed sack, 50-pound feed sack or 80-pound feed sack, and they reutilize them here. So as we popped up over a hill on the golf course, I saw them go up and look like this. And we were in a golf cart, and they grabbed one of them. There were 3 of them. One of them grabbed the whatever it was in the sack, threw it on his shoulder, and we were approaching. And so I had to be on alert because they're not supposed to be there. And there's armed guards that didn't see him. So who knows how desperate they are. But these people, it was probably a crocodile or a really huge iguana, maybe. Who knows what it was? Could have been a monkey, but they were just trying to feed themselves for sustenance. If they had killed the animal that they had, then they had guns with them. I didn't see any guns. But they're probably so poor that they don't have guns. I saw one guy with one or two with a machete. It was very far. But by the time that we got back over to where they were at, they had disappeared. They didn't make a noise. They saw us, and we just saw them take off running. And you got to understand, this is crazy, heavy, dense foliage all around the jungle. Like, it would be difficult all around the golf course, it's jungle. It would be difficult to get through there. It's also marshland because we're on a little stretch of land right here between the ocean and a lagoon. So everything's really swampy. But they made no noise and they just disappeared. So first of all, the people that are locals, they do know the terrain, and some of them are pretty good in the woods and stuff. So you got to worry about that. And if you consider yourself wanting to go up against them at some point in time. And the reason that it is dangerous a lot of times is because other than gang activity and drug activity, there's just people that are just very poor, and those people are not generally the danger. But in this case, you can see the danger mostly is like the government and the rich local people actually forced off those people to build this, and hired hitmen, teams of killing death squads to kill certain people, when the final ones that wouldn't leave. So that's the danger, and those people are involved in the wrong thing. And I find this to be a land of very polarized place where people are either usually really good or really bad. And the bad ones have no qualms about doing whatever it takes to either make money or do their job or whatever. So those are the kind of people you don't want to run up against. You've got your firearm, you've got element of surprise, concealed carry. How many magazines do I carry? Well, like I mentioned, law enforcement's extremely corrupt. And normally you can get away with paying them off if you have involvement with law enforcement. It could be anywhere from $1. The other day when we were on our way up here, we got pulled over just coming here, and I had firearm and everything on me. I didn't want him to have to run all my paperwork, search through all my camera equipment, gear, and everything. So as soon as he saw me and saw the Land Cruiser, he was like, oh, he assumed that we were upper class people because here we are. And he said, he started out the conversation. It was a military police checkpoint, and the cop started out the conversation by saying, man, it's hot out here. Of course, in Spanish, he's talking to me. Man, it's hot out here. I could sure use a Coke. And fresco is the term for a Coke or a drink, and it's also the same term used for a bribe. So it's very funny because he said, it's so hot out here, and he said, us poor people are out here working in the sun and this, that, and the other. And so I just gave him 20 lempiras. Before we even said anything more, I said, yeah, man, it's hot. Thank you for your service. Here's 20 lempiras, which is less than $1. It's like 75 cents. And he was thrilled to have it and let us go, and didn't want to check what we had, didn't want to check our paperwork, which is his actual job. So that just tells you how easy it is. But I want to follow the law, and I want to do the right thing, because not all cops are corrupt. If you break the law, I have about 120 rounds of ammunition. You can't really get away with more than that. I have 4 magazines plus the one in the firearm, but the important thing is multiple methods. I can have this mag carrier on my belt, if I can have both mag carriers on my belt, or I have this mag carrier that's part of this as well. So, you know, that's all of the ammo that I have. And then if you notice, I have one in each bag, right now. It just happens to be how it's laid out. But I generally tend to like having all the mags on my person that I can, as long as I'm on that balance of maintaining concealment. All right, a great thing to have, because in this area of the country, even there's a lot of guys with metal detecting wands in a lot of places because everybody's armed. So this is the Ghost knife from Bone Tactical, and this system, when you buy it, it's ready to be worn around your neck. Well, this is a IWB clip you can buy extra, and it just slips into even gym shorts or anything. I brought this one because of going out to the beach, I can have this. But I also know that I might have to go places while I'm here where I'm going to get wanded with a metal detector, and then this is my only way to defend myself in that case. So it's a good item to have with you. All right, I always like to have knives with me, backup knives on knives. This is a great thing to have as well. It's because it's fast, just pummeling device, right? The Bone Destroyer. And then it's also a knife, but I actually use this for cutting chores. I don't use it as a self-defense knife because to me, a folding knife is not, I don't want to have to take something out and open it. It's all about concealment versus speed of access, ease of access. So I can pull this out of my pocket and choke up on it and go pummeling. And it also means that I might be able to hit somebody that might not kill them. It might just be an attitude adjustment. So that's a nice thing to have, because the only thing I have could be a homeless guy, could be a crazy person. I've gotten some tough situations in third world countries with crazy people, and I don't want to cut them. I definitely don't want to shoot them because they're crazy. They're not trying to kill me maybe, but maybe they are, I don't know. But I can see that the person's like a homeless, poor, crazy person, something like that. If they don't have a weapon, if they're just like banging on my vehicle, I've had guys like banging on my vehicle or like trying to break the window with their hand, but you can tell that they're crazy. So, or they get pissed off because you don't want to give them money and you look like you have money. What can I do? I can choke up on this and give them a nice little good morning, and they'll probably think twice and go bother somebody else who's easier to bother, right? Even if they're crazy. One thing I've noticed about crazy people is they're not as crazy as they act like once they start dealing with a little bit of pain. So it's a good thing to consider as far as your EDC, that you don't want to be out here hurting and killing people, because somebody might even hit me. If it's a homeless, crazy person, they don't have a gun and I pull out my gun and shoot them, or if I cut them with a knife and they die, I'm responsible for that. And if I'm in a third world country, I probably would almost definitely go to prison. Here in this country, you go to prison first and then they figure it out later anyway. So while you're in prison as an American, it's pretty much game over anyway. You're probably not going to make it out even after a week. So all stuff to consider. Along the lines of that, this is a flashlight, the EDC 29 from Night Court. It's my favorite flashlight. Having a gun, I carry a flashlight if it's night as much as I can. I always have night sights on my Glock because I want to be able to, I don't want to shoot and not know what I'm hitting. And then target recognition is so important, right? So definitely I want to know what if it's nighttime and I can't see what I'm shooting at, I want to light it up first with the flashlight. But then we also have the same thing. This in my hand is a loaded fist, and it helps a lot more, just like a bone breaker would. So I forgot I didn't have the bone breaker was sitting over there, but bone breaker is also, I always have this on my keys. Another option for a loaded fist, multi-tool. This is the Bone Berserker. But that's why it's such a big deal, guys. People are like, oh, I have a gun to defend myself. I don't need a bone breaker. And it's like, first of all, this can be brought anywhere. It can be brought on a plane, international travel, whatever. But second of all, there's so many situations where you're still going to want to defend yourself, but you don't want to hurt the person that bad or kill them, because it's going to, even if you don't want to not kill the person from a moral perspective, then you may not want to kill the person because of what's going to happen to you. And then also think about getting sued after. In the US, you can kill a guy who is robbing you, and they could still sue you and take you for everything you have. So it's crazy dynamic. Definitely better to just give them an attitude adjustment if you can. This is the new high roller bracelet, so this is really, really, really cool. I'm so excited about this. It's the same bracelet in every way except the clasp. Some of you guys have been wanting a clasp that's fast access. So what this is you basically just wrap it around like this, and you just touch these two magnets together. So now, all I have to do to grab this off, I don't have to open the clasp anymore. And this is an offensive weapon, let's be honest, all right, if you're gonna use this as a weapon. But it is now the most high-speed thing like this anywhere on the market. So all I have to do is just literally just reach down and touch it. The magnets come out, and in less than a couple seconds, I'm ready for action. So this is I actually didn't bring this to market for a while just because of how dangerous it is to get into the wrong hands, but I also think people are gonna do what they're gonna do, and it's a bracelet, and it's survival tree saw. Anyway, going from there, the best self-defense knife that I have. So remember the levels, you want to have an impact device first so you don't have to kill somebody. If you do have to ramp it up and maybe you're somewhere where you can't have a gun, or maybe you're not good with a gun, this is the best self-defense knife you can get. You just stick it in your waistband right in the front here, and when you're in a situation where you need to defend yourself, you lift your shirt up, you reach down there, you pull it out, and you just go to town. You just go to town. It gets no better for self-defense. You stick your hand towards them, or you swing your hand down like that, and you're doing devastation in any way you do it. For a woman, this is the best that it gets. It takes no training, and it lines up perfectly with the natural movement of the hand for maximum strength. Because when you have a knife sticking up like this, like a normal knife, you have all this wrist movement, and you have to do this weird underhand thing to stab with, and it creates the opportunity to get grabbed here and disarmed, and then that person, same grabbing you here or coming in close, is bashing your face in. With this, you can be up here all the time and sticking from here, and it's much more effective for self-defense. Much easier to use, requires less training, human anatomical position. This is not for cutting potatoes, guys. This is a self-defense knife. This one here is either or, whatever you want to use it for. Tradecraft Kank. It does great for both, but it takes a little bit more skill to use. And the point of the Tradecraft Kank is that it's a great knife, easy to conceal, like we talked about, concealment versus speed of access, fast access, all the important stuff here. But it's cheap and it's handmade. So it's the cheapest effective handmade EDC tool / weapon knife on the market, okay? Other handmade things like that are gonna run 3 times the price. Those are around $100 depending on the model. This is the Nightcore NB Air. I highly recommend having some sort of battery backup. I've got and here's this backpack over here. I've got an entire bag of different cables and battery backups and stuff, because not getting into a bad situation is so much more important than being able to defend yourself once you're in a bad situation. And if you can just get to where you need to go using the map on your phone or using intelligence or learning about the culture before you get yourself into a bad situation, and you need to recharge your phone, then, keep your phone charged. So much better to do all that. Gray Man Operations Pack over here. Okay, I do highly recommend having some basic survival gear as well. And when you're in jungle, rainforest, I have my water filter, I have my emergency food rations. I sell all this stuff. This bag on the website, you can buy it by itself. You can buy the survival stuff by itself on bonetactical.com, or you can buy already kitted out and ready to go, the most prepared bag for the broadest array of environments for survival situations, the ultimate survival bag from Bone Tactical. Being in these situations in some of the most dangerous areas of the world, having to survive crossing borders in foreign countries with no help and no resources, not being able to, being even a hunted and wanted fugitive, that's how I've learned these lessons. Now I take those skills that I've developed and I've fine-tuned them, and I'm packing now these bags for you guys so you don't have to make all those decisions. And I buy this stuff in bulk, so you can even get it cheaper. It's even cheaper for you to buy the bag by itself than if you had to buy this stuff individually. So there's no, you know, the ultimate survival bag from Bone Tactical, there's no downside. From there, like I say, if we haven't already put overlays of the local Garifuna community that we've been talking about, that this resort was stolen from, their ancestral lands. That being said, I'm not just here to drop gear recommendations. I'm here to promote change, to promote the world being a better place, being the change that I want to see in the world. And when I see things like this, multi-million-dollar projects, you know, and people just getting their entire cultures destroyed, people getting killed, people getting, you know, violence imposed on people that have no recourse, that have no way to speak out for themselves, then I feel a responsibility to speak out. And that's what I'm doing right here, right now. I'm speaking for change, and I'm telling you guys, what can you do about this? Do your research. Do your research before you go somewhere, and don't support places that are destroying lives, okay? Be aware of your surroundings. All of this gear that I have here, it's useless if you don't use situational awareness, if you don't use your brain. So use your brain. Be a thinker before you're a doer. Develop the skill set, and the less amount of tools you'll need, the more skills you have. You'll be able to do more with less. And if you are aware of the world that you live in, what's going on around you, do some research. Don't believe everything everybody tells you, and don't just go, hey, I'm gonna go to this beautiful beachfront resort because I can, and I don't know anything about why it's there or the story behind it. Do some research, check stuff out, do some planning, calm down, live your life a little bit, and learn, open your eyes, and just, that's what I wanna promote with Bone Tactical. My products are so far ahead of everything on the market because of my mindset and skill set, right? But the mindset that required me to make this skill set, and apart from me being blessed to be able to do these things by God-given talents and abilities, I also have a mindset to where I question everything, and I don't accept when something's good enough. I want it to be the best. And so the same attitude that I give to these products that's allowed me to make the world's most effective edged weapons, self-defense tools, and non-permissive environment gear is also the attitude you can take in everything that you do. And when you are looking into something, stop, take the time, and look at it from all angles and make sure that it's really what you want to do and that it's right. If there's a way to do it better, do it better. I'm here to stand up for the little guy, for the underdog. I'm here to do what's right, and I'm always going to make that decision with my business, even if doing right is not always profitable. In this case, it's the Garifuna people who have been displaced and lost. They are losing their territory a little bit at a time and their lands, and their homes, and their lives to the big, powerful money people in Central America. And they don't want your charity. They just want to be heard, and they want to keep what they already have and stop having it being taken from them. I hope you can at least, at minimum, share this video so that awareness can get out there about things like this, about these big, fancy beachfront resorts all throughout Central America being built on lands that have belonged to other people and do belong to other people, and what they're doing to the people that the lands belong to. Because if you want to know how to survive in hostile environments at the end of the day, you need to learn to recognize the hostile environments. And true strength is shown in being able to help others, not cutting them down and taking advantage of the weak or the unfortunate. This has been the Killing Fields EDC. Subscribe to the channel if you want more raw truth, real world gear, and intel behind the scenes that they don't want you to know about. Stay sharp, stay prepared, and don't take paradise at face value. Bone out.
There are some benefits out here to Indura. Nice snook tarpon, all kinds of cichlids. But catch and release is the way to go. Bone out. Bone out.